We are rolling off of NFL wildcard weekend, and we had some unexpected finishes coming from those games. Plenty to unpack, plenty to break down as we look forward into divisional round of the playoffs. In the AFC, we have the gift that keeps on giving between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen as the Chiefs travel to Buffalo to play the Bills. We have superstar CJ Stroud facing off against the Ravens, one of the better teams in the NFL, as they travel to Baltimore. Flipping over to the NFC, we have Detroit staying at home for the first time ever, twice back to back. So let me rephrase that. This is the first time in Detroit football history that they will host 2 playoff games ever. So Bucs travel to the Lions. Bucs coming off of a really, really impressive win against the Eagles. The Eagles kind of just fell apart. I don't want to get too much into a team who is no longer into the playoffs, but great win for the Bucs. They travel to Detroit to play the Lions. And of course, Jordan Love and the Packers, after absolutely routing the Cowboys and Jerry World, go to the 49ers and face off against Brock Purdy and company. Plenty to be excited about as we head into divisional round. If you don't know who we are Stoutletics, just a couple of guys who love to talk ball. We really lean into the analytics and our model-based projections to make well-informed inferences on games. And of course, we dabble in a little bit of sports betting. We're by no means professionals, but we can be good at it. So we love to have a little fun. We appreciate you guys watching. If you're watching on YouTube, listening, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcasts. Before we get into that, Brendan, how we doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. It was some insane games this past weekend. Gosh, they're so good. The Ravens Texans game I'm so excited for. We had, just the Packers being the lower seed, absolutely routing the Cowboys, which was crazy. I don't like the Cowboys, but I thought that this is the best shot the Cowboys had in a while, and they just got absolutely destroyed. So, and then of course the rematch of the Bills and the Chiefs again every single year. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. There's plenty to talk about, plenty to break down as kind of gear up for this games. What's crazy is in a wildcard weekend that felt pretty exciting in itself. There was only one game that really came down to wire, and that was the Rams and the Lions. The model had projected 24-22 and ended up 24-23. So that was also the best performance of the model of the week. So not as many close games, but certainly a lot of excitement, especially with 2 first-year quarterbacks in CJ Stroud and Jordan Love absolutely taking it to their respective opponents. So we'll definitely have a lot to talk about with those two. We're going to get into it with the AFC first and get into the Chiefs versus the Bills. Again, we mentioned it's the gift that keeps on giving. We've seen this matchup plenty of times before, and we will continue to see it year in, year out. It's one of the more exciting. This is like the Brady versus Manning series for the new era. So I love this game. This is one I wanted to talk about first. Even though the Chiefs haven't been really the Chiefs that everybody has been used to up to date, again, they have the ability to break off big plays at any given moment, just with Mahomes back there at quarterback. And then, of course, Josh Allen, dude, he's playing phenomenal football. He is the only quarterback in NFL history to average 250 plus passing yards and 50 plus rushing yards on the ground per game. So this is, just awesome. So glad we get to break this one down. Bills are 2.5-point home favorites as we go into Buffalo. Looking at the weather, there's really nothing crazy. It's going to be really cold, 20 degrees, but that's warmer than the 2 games that both of these teams played in last weekend. And there's really no projected precipitation, so I'm not worried about any major inclement weather. The point total sitting at 46.5. That's a bit lower than what we've typically seen out of matchups between these two teams, but I expect nothing less of excitement from this game. Before I get into any of the numbers, projections, and whatnot, Brendan, man, gut reaction to this line, and of course, let me know who you think is going to win this game.
Yeah, man, this is the game we look forward to every year. We always know it's going to happen. And initially, I'm thinking that the line is a little high here. I think it should be more of a pick 'em. If you give one of the teams 2.5 points, I mean, I'm willing to take the underdog there. And that's what I'm thinking here. I do think, unfortunately, that I think the Chiefs are going to go up there and get it done somehow. I mean, it's not pretty. It's not we've seen the history of these teams play each other, and Patrick Mahomes always seems to come out on top. So I'm going to take the Chiefs with the 2.5. Leaning towards I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. But I think it's
Yeah,
going to be incredible.
so there's plenty to talk about in this game. One thing being the Chiefs' defense. This is the
Right.
best defense that Patrick Mahomes has played under. I'm sure everybody's heard that from every sort of media personality and sports coverage in regards to the Chiefs. But I think it doesn't do it justice either. The way that they disguise their defenses is unmatched compared to the rest of the league. They play a lot of too high safety. In fact, a quarter of their defensive plays are cover two at some capacity. But what they do best is they disguise it better than anybody. And they do something that I've really not seen much before. They take their safeties and they rotate them pre-snap. So it looks like one high, and then they in fact switch. So they're just getting really creative on the defensive side of the ball, and I think that's what's making it tougher for their opponents to kind of find success on against the Chiefs defense. And they get pressure extremely well. You know, having Chris Jones back on the defensive line, dude's a baller on the interior defensive line, and I think that the key for the Bills here is they're going to have to do what they do well, is play a lot of 12 personnel, the two tight end sets, Dawson Knox, Dalton Kincaid. When they're going to have to, kind of match up big on big against the Chiefs linebackers and kind of just play it smart. And I think the Bills can certainly do that. I think that's the key to success. I think they'll have a harder time stretching the field and having explosive plays, maybe with Diggs. Diggs did get banged up a little bit in the second quarter of the Steelers game last week. I think first or second quarter, he was able to continue and return playing, but it's something to note, take into consideration that they may not be as explosive on the perimeter as they once were. Gabe Davis is also up in question. He did miss last week's game, so
It's got to be a Gabe Davis game. It's got to be a Gabe Davis game.
Well, I mean,
when you least expect it.
He missed last week, so I don't know if he'll even be ready to go for this
Getting
week.
ready.
And if he is, he won't be 100%. So
yeah.
I think that they're going to have to lean heavily into Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and we saw him do that. Dawson Knox scored a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid had a couple clutch plays down the stretch. One thing that concerns me for the Bills, their defense continues to get banged up. They've already been banged up throughout the year, but we saw second-year linebacker Terrell Bernard go out on with an ankle injury, got carted off. He's done. That's a huge miss. Excuse me. Second-year linebacker Balin Spector, he also got hurt. Second-year cornerback Christian Benford suffered a knee injury as well. So it's just piling up. This reminds me of the 2020 49ers where they couldn't catch a break. I don't know if you remember that team, but they went like 6-10, but George Kittle, Jimmy Garoppolo, D Ford, all of those guys got hurt. Debo, they all got hurt. And it was like, oh my gosh, this team cannot catch a break in terms of injuries. So gives me a lot of those same vibes, and I'm concerned that the Bills' injuries on the defensive side of the ball is too much for them to handle.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think that it bodes well for them that they're at home. Of course, home field advantage in the playoffs is huge, and I think that's where they get the 2.5. Mm-hmm. And I will say the model likes the Bills by 4, 24-20. To be specific. So Bills by 4, but the game going a little bit under the total. And we've seen this defense overachieve, even with the injuries. They sit at 8th overall in EPA per play allowed, but the injuries might be too much,
Yeah.
There's got to be a breaking point where if you're missing over half of your defensive starters, you would have to think Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are going to capitalize. Am I crazy?
No, you're not crazy. I think if this is an Arrowhead, that the Chiefs win by like 10.
Yeah.
Because of all those things. But the fact that they have the home field, I mean, they play in similar weather, so it's really not a big deal. We talked last week about the Dolphins coming up there and playing in the worst conditions ever from Miami Beach is where they were at. So, and they got destroyed. So, stuff like that are factors. But in this one, none of that's really a factor. Really, it's just the home advantage in the Bills. I mean, the Bills got to hate the Chiefs, man, because every single year they've got opportunity to advance out of the AFC, and they can't because they can't get back to the Chiefs. Can't get past the Chiefs. It's horrible. They're these people are got to be suicidal on this stuff. This is crazy.
Yeah,
but I do think that the 2.5 is high. Like, what's your thought on that? Just personal.
I think the home field advantage is the reason the Bills get the nod. I do
Yeah.
agree that it would be 50-50 on a neutral field. I think it's only right. Let's look. Okay, there's a couple ways that the Bills can win outright. One of them, we already talked about it. They run their 12 personnel, and there's mismatches between the Bills tight ends and the Chiefs linebackers. I think they can do that.
They can do
Another
that.
thing is they have to run the football. And we see Josh Allen, he's running the football immensely well, better than almost any quarterback in the league. So Kansas City, as they sit 6th overall in offensive EPA per play allowed, that's because they're 2nd overall in EPA per pass allowed, but they're 30th in the league in EPA per rush allowed. And then Buffalo, on the flip side, on the offensive side of the ball, they're 3rd in EPA per rush on offense. So they can find success by running the football, and I think they will. I think that's how the Bills win this game, is if they run the 2 tight end set, they use that as a extension of their run game, and then, of course, they continue running the football with Josh Allen. That's how the Bills win this game. For the Chiefs, if they air it out like they did last week, and Rashee Rice is as consistent as he was last week, I think the Chiefs win. I think that now they're starting to slowly develop a superstar in the receiver game, and Travis Kelce is not what he was. He's had a steadily decline, but he's still a consistent target and a blanket underthrow for Patrick Mahomes. And so I think that with Kansas City being as successful as they have been, they're 8th overall in offensive DVOA, 10th overall in offensive EPA. They can certainly find success against this banged up Bills defense, no matter what. They pressure, or they allow pressure. How do I say this? Their offensive line is one of the better offensive lines in the league when it comes to allowing pressure. So Patrick Mahomes will have time. And I think that's how the Chiefs get it done, on the contrary. Yeah. So for me, I like the Chiefs as well. I think they win outright in a close one. But, man, I can't say with any sort of conviction, because I think there is definite paths for both of these teams to come in and win this game.
Absolutely. I think the Chiefs have more paths to win than the Bills do. I think the only way the Bills win is what you were talking about. They're just not going to have anything on the outside, even if they have all their players back. Like, they're not going to be healthy. So they're really going to have to use Kincaid and Knox over the middle, the play action, and the QB run. And James Cook's going to have to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Bills are sitting at 2.5. 52% of the public is on the Bills. 71% of the handles on the Bills. So seems to be some heavy favorites for the Bills. But Chiefs looking nice, man. I think you're right. I think there are more ways in which the Chiefs can win this game, just strictly due to injuries. I think that's a great point. So, but this game, again, the gift that keeps on giving, man. So I expect nothing less of fireworks for this. It's going to be awesome. I'm certainly looking forward to it, more so out of the other games. All right, before we switch gears, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe, comment your favorite picks for divisional round weekend, and make sure you let us know who you're rooting for. Let us know who you're rooting against. Drop us all in the comments some score predictions, some best bets that you're taking. We love scanning the information from everybody. We appreciate you watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment your favorite picks. Pivoting. Texans go to the Ravens. Ravens are 9.5-point favorites in Baltimore. That was a little more than I kind of expected at the initial look. The weather looks fine. It's about 20. It's expected to be mid-20s. No precipitation, so it won't be anything crazy. It'll just be pretty cold. That'll kind of be, outside of the norm for the Texans. However, CJ Stroud, he did play at Ohio State, so he's certainly used to cold weather. I'm not really worried about his performance in cold weather, to be specific. But Ravens 9.5, the over-under sitting at 44.5. I'll just go ahead and say it. My model projection has this at about an 8-point game, Ravens -8, with 26-18 being the final score. So kind of near on the nose with what Vegas has, maybe a little less. So, but what do you think about the opening line? Ravens getting a near 10 points. Let me know what you think, and then kind of how you feel about this game.
I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot of points, especially because of how many points the Texans just put up over one of the, if not the best defenses in the league this season. And I think it's really high, okay? But if you think about it, in the first round, Flacco threw 2 pick sixes. The Browns couldn't get
Yep.
anything going on the ground,
Yeah.
and the Ravens are not going to do that. Plus, you've got a 38-year-old white dude, and now you've got Lamar Jackson. It's completely different. And even though I think that the Texans are going to be able to put some points on the board, I don't think it's going to be enough. I actually think the Ravens cover the 9.5.
Okay, so I like it. That's bold, and I like it. Kind of looking at the splits, I was curious what everybody else is putting. Everybody is heavy on the Texans. Heavy on the
I mean,
Texans.
why
65.
wouldn't you be
Right.
after what you just saw? So it's just a
That's fair.
recency bias type deal.
65% of the bets are on the Texans. 91% of the handles on the Texans. So pretty surprising splits there. The line has kind of moved depending on which book. It's only moved half a point, but uh, there are a couple things that I want to talk about. One, you said that I'm not taking away anything from CJ Stroud. I think he is undoubtedly the offensive player of the year. And I know a lot of people are arguing for Puka Nacua, but him playing the quarterback position and then turning the Texans around like he did, he absolutely deserves that. And he deserves all the credit that he's getting. What he's doing, he's an immediate superstar in the league, and he will continue to have success with the Texans. I firmly believe that. I think CJ Stroud is honestly what we all thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be. And, I again, what he has done should not go unnoticed. But remember one thing we said when we were breaking down this game, we called a lot of shit for it because everybody was on the Browns to beat the Texans. But the
Crazy.
Browns, they allowed twice as many points on the road that they allowed at home. So their home road splits were like, if you looked at that, you had to acknowledge that there was some sort of fault in the system when you rated all of the defensive ratings. You had to take that into account, especially with it being at home for the Texans and being against an elite quarterback in CJ Stroud. So that was one thing that we pointed out. The Browns allowed twice as many points on the road that they did at home. So I also want to say this. Like you said, the Ravens aren't going to allow a lot of that to happen. They're at home. They won't. They certainly won't. For a path for the Texans to win, there's one thing I think has to happen. I think that Houston has to hit on all of their explosive plays.
Okay.
And I think they can. The opportunity is there. But if you think about it, there's a couple plays in the Browns game that I want to talk about. There's one at the beginning of the game where he actually hit Nico Collins. But he was on the run and he hit him, and Nico Collins actually had to turn around and catch the ball, and it caused him to fall where he wasn't able to score. If CJ Stroud hit him in stride, again, I'm not critiquing CJ Stroud. He played phenomenal. That was a perfect game in my opinion. But again, it's like for the Texans to win, he's going to have to be perfect, and they're going to have to hit all of their explosive plays. There was 2 deep balls in that Texans game where they missed on, where it would have been a lot worse for the Browns if they were to hit on them. They're going to have to hit those. They really are. So I think that the path for the Texans to win is they're going to have to capitalize on every potential opportunity they have to maximize on their explosive plays. Baltimore is second overall in the league in offensive EPA per play allowed. So one of the best teams in the league in limiting explosive plays. And that's why I say that Houston's going to have to capitalize on that. But again, Houston, they can do it. They're 13th overall in EPA per play. They have a chance to do so. Now, for the Ravens, I think what they're going to do well and expose Houston in is the yards after the catch and their explosive plays. I think Zay Flowers, Odell, these guys are all going to play crucial roles in this game. Houston has a bit of a problem when it comes to allowing yards after the catch and explosive plays. They're one of the better defenses, but they do give up a couple of explosive plays. They're 16th in the league overall, so dead even. I think that's where the Ravens are going to kind of bite them here. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying about the Texans have to capitalize on their explosive plays, and that's why because I don't think they're going to. I think it's gonna be one of those like slow deaths, like where the Ravens might have like a 6-minute drive, pretty much get they won't really have many third downs, and they'll get up there and they'll score. And the Texans will get in here and get like one first down, and then 3 plays and punt. The Ravens will come out and score again, and then the Texans will have the ball back. Okay, we got to get back into it. Like 3 and out, punt. Ravens get back again and score again. It's gonna be one of those like really slow. I don't think the Texans are gonna score more than 20 points. That's my bold prediction for this game. And if that's the case, then I think the Ravens will definitely cover that spread.
Yeah, and that's kind of what the model says, like 26 to 18, which if you translate it to more likely NFL numbers, it'd be 27 to 17, and that's kind of what Vegas has, honestly. So, but you look at it too. The Texans, they are 27th in the league in average depth of target allowed, and on the contrary, the Ravens surprisingly are 8th overall in average depth of target allowed. So I mentioned that the yards after the catch is going to be a thing, but the Ravens also stretch the field.
Yeah,
they don't just dink and dunk and then allow their guys to run. They stretch the field, and then even doing so, their guys still get yards after the catch. And that's why the Ravens are one of the more explosive teams on the offensive side of the ball. 4th overall in offensive EPA per play. They're 4th overall in offensive DVOA. It's a steep task for the Texans. CJ Stroud will have to be perfect. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is he can be perfect and win them this game. But probabilistically speaking, there's about a 20% chance that happens according to the logistical model that we have over here. And man, I like the Ravens, man. I think that they're gonna, I think as much as I want to take the Texans to cover, I think the Ravens come out, and I think it'll be a slow start to the first half. But I think they come out and they kind of throttle as they gear up.
You forget that you can like score points on the defensive side too. And the Ravens have got some dogs on the defense, man. I mean, that Mac McDonald's done a great job, and he deserves a head coaching job. And that defense is nasty.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nice. Like, I just remember watching how dominant they were when they played the 49ers. I remember watching that.
Yeah.
Just like, God.
That was insane. They're 1st overall in defensive DVOA, and they're 2nd overall in offensive EPA per play allowed. Like, it's insanity what this team, especially looking at the teams that they played.
Yeah. You can't really get, like, that just shows right there.
It's crazy.
Both those categories.
And what's sad about it is, like, I want CJ Stroud to win so bad. Like, I would love if he won, and I would feel no, remorse about this pick, taking the Ravens to win and even taking them to cover. I wouldn't feel bad about it at all if the Texans were to turn around and win, because I am that much of a CJ Stroud fan. He is the easiest person to root for, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I hope he wins. But for me, looking at the numbers, breaking it down, what the model says too, Ravens are the play, man. I think they're going to win. They're going to win handily, and I think they even cover.
I think so.
Okay, let's flip it over to the NFC. Let's talk about the Lions and the Bucs. Bucs coming off of a convincing win against the Eagles, man. Another day, another time, we're going to have to kind of break down what happened to the Eagles, because that was one of the biggest fall. They're going to have to completely break open this team and just figure out what the hell went wrong. But on the flip side, we're talking about the Bucs. The Bucs capitalized on that. They capitalized on a historically bad Eagles passing defense. Baker Mayfield looked great. Again, just kind of proving everybody wrong. He's coming out here and dealing. He's certainly got the receiving core to make explosive plays. And then the Lions, what a story. What a story. They're hosting their 2nd playoff game for the first time ever in Detroit Lions history. Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, all of them. That's an easy story to root for as well. So storylines behind this game are going to be fun nonetheless. Bucs are +6 road underdogs. Point total sitting at 48.5. That's the 2nd highest total on the slate. Our projection has the Lions 25 to 22. So it more has this game as a 3-point spread rather than a 6-point spread. But we'll dive in and see how much I believe that. I do think there will be points scored, though. One thing I wanted to note, Bucs are 27th overall in explosive play rate allowed. Lions are 25th overall in explosive play rate allowed. And I think both teams are going to really, really open up the playbook against each other and take advantage. So
Yeah.
before I get into any
But
more of it, Brendan, what do you think about this line? What do you think? Who do you think is going to win? How do you think they're going to win? Let me know.
you just talked about the Lions being pretty bad in the explosive play allowed. They've most of their secondary have been hurt like all season, so I
Yeah,
think that kind of plays into it. They're back healthy now. Brian Branch is playing great. CJ Gardner-Johnson's back, and gosh, that was such a good game last week.
dude, it was what a game! Best
Um,
game on the slate.
yeah, I'll tell you
Best game
what,
on.
Lions fans are nuts, and up there in Ford Field hosting, it's going to be an incredible atmosphere. And I think we have to more talk about the Bucs here than we do the Lions, because the Bucs, sure, they just destroyed the Eagles, right? The Eagles had an entire second half of the season collapse, and they're not the same team
Yeah,
as they were last year, like at all, like a completely different team. And someone that hasn't watched all season, if they would have seen that score, they'd be like, oh my god, like Baker Mayfield's probably like awesome, and like the Bucs are actually have a good chance against the Lions. No, no, I don't think so at all. I think the Lions are gonna be able to run the ball. I think the Lions are gonna be able to pass the ball and the pass funnel that the Bucs have, and I think that they're gonna be able to score it well at home, inside. Goff's better at home. I think they're going
mm,
to be able to score at will, and I think that they cover the 6.5. I'm not saying the Bucs aren't going to put up a little bit of a fight, but I don't think it's going to be real close here. As far as how the game seems, like maybe they only win by 7, but I think that they're at least going to cover that, and it's not going to feel like a close game.
okay. Yeah, no, I see what you're coming from, and again, we talk about this on every show. Every time the Lions play at home, the home road splits for Jared Goff and the
It's bad,
Lions are
crazy.
it's crazy. And if we talk about the Rams game, let's talk about. I think that game the Lions would have won by a much larger margin if they weren't getting tossed by the refs on every single call.
Yep.
There were two specific calls that I remember that I was like, what is this? One of them being the offsides or the false start call on the Lions, but it was like
No one
pretty
moved.
evident that it was not on the Lions. It's I don't know. I feel like there's the refs got something out for them. Something's weird. So in that instance, I think they could have beaten the Rams by a little more than what the actual score indicated. I think even looking at some of the advanced metrics, the EPA margin was pretty significant after that game in favor of the Lions. I do think the Bucs will be able to keep up, and I don't think this will be any more than a 2-possession game. I think it can be. The avenue to that happening is all of the Lions' weapons are healthy, and they come out here and just play super aggressive. I think the key the thing for the Lions is their offensive line is second to none. Especially that right side led by Penny Sewell. They're dogs. All of them are dogs, and I think they're certainly going to have a lot more success holding up the Bucs' pressure than the Eagles did the other night. I mean, my goodness, the Bucs pressured 60% of the time in the game against the Eagles, and they won. They had success on about 57% of those. I saw that was from like Fox Graphics or whatever, but that's crazy. That's one of the highest blitz rates that we've seen in a playoff game this year, and that was one of the highest blitz success rates that we've seen this year. So
Yep.
I think the Bucs are going to stay aggressive, but the problem is that the Lions are going to be able to defend that. The Lions also have really good pass blockers in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, in
Mhm.
which the Eagles did not have. No running back was good at pass protection, whereas both running backs for the Lions are relatively decent at pass protection. So I think the Lions get the favor in terms of that. Looking at some of the more numbers, Detroit 24th in EPA per pass allowed, 8th overall in EPA per pass. Again, Bucs are 25th in EPA per pass allowed. Detroit is 8th in EPA per pass. So we talked about EPA per play, EPA per pass. I think both teams are going to open up the passing game and absolutely take advantage. That's kind of why I'm leaning on the over in this game. I think there's going to be points. I think there's going to be a lot of points. And I think both teams are going to come out aggressive and find success. But, to your point, Lions secondary is finally fully healthy. It felt like most of the year they were either down CJ Gardner-Johnson or Brian Branch. But everybody's healthy. Everybody's good. Depending on the status of Anzalone at linebacker, but it's hard for me not to favor the Lions here. I think the Bucs cover. especially, I actually took them at +7 on some books. I'm seeing this line kind of be driven up towards the Lions. In fact, 67% of the bets are on the Lions. 89% of the handle is on the Lions. So for me, taking it at +7 for the Bucs, because I think that I think it's very, very probabilistically likely that it's one possession or less.
Let me put it to you this way. I think that Ben Johnson's going to have a field day, their offensive coordinator. Just for reference, we talked about how bad Jared Goff's road home splits are. They played earlier in the season in October at Raymond James Stadium. That's what it's called, right? Yeah, Raymond James Stadium at the Bucs. The Lions won 20-6. Jared Goff had 353 passing yards.
Dang.
And that's probably his highest one of the whole year. It's just the pass funnel of this defense is ridiculous. I think Ben Johnson's going to create really good spacing with the receivers mixed in with the tight ends, and they're going to be able to run the ball. And so I don't think that they'll be able to be stopped on either side, and I think they'll cover this. That's just me. I know I just contradicted exactly what you said, but I just wanted to bring up the game from earlier in the season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's see, but using previous games, like, it's one of the best things we can do, but it's also one of the worst. And when we talked about, like, it's a clear representation of what has happened when these two teams met in the past. But then you look at, like, the Texans and the Browns game.
Yeah.
Look at all the injuries the Texans had. Now, it wasn't near the magnitude of what the Lions and the Bucs had been dealing with. They were more than less healthy at that time,
right,
give or take a few. But, it's a good point. And one thing the model takes into account is momentum. And so I think they see that with the Bucs. They've gained momentum. Their offense is in a better rhythm than it ever has been at any point in the year. Like, perfect time to get hot. Perfect time for Baker Mayfield and the Bucs to find that chemistry and get hot as we head into playoff season. And so the model does take into account momentum. And I think it saw a little Bucs momentum rising and a little bit of Lions momentum declining, like in the later games of the regular season. But I agree. I'm just rooting for points here. I am taking Bucs +7. I did take that just in case, because I do think it'll be one possession or less. But for the Lions, I think if the Bucs were to win, it's going to be coming down to the last minute, like a last minute field goal, or they win by 4, give or take. But if the Lions win, they can obviously win by one possession, but they're way more likely to win by 7 or more than the Bucs are, of course. We see that in the spread, and there's way more ways in which the Lions can be aggressive and attack this Bucs defense, this Bucs secondary to be specific, and really get ahead early. So
that was a really good thought on the past games, because we literally talked about that last week. So I just contradicted myself, because we were saying that it's hard to beat a team like that twice, because Flacco shredded the Texans in the regular season. So that's a good thought. So that decreases the validity to what I was saying. But
it's a dome game.
Yeah,
it's a dome game.
I think they'll do it. I think that Goff will do that again. Just an opinion.
All right, man. Hey, glad to have a beer bet. What's crazy is that it seems like for the playoffs, all logic goes out the window.
Yeah.
And we see that in this next game that we're going to break down, the 49ers versus the Packers. The Packers travel to San Francisco. Packers are +10 road underdogs as they head to the 49ers. The over-under is the highest on the divisional round slate, sitting at 50 points overall. Jordan Love, what a freaking masterclass the dude put on against the Dallas Cowboys. He not only went into the Cowboys' house, where the Cowboys averaged the most points per game by any team in the league, by 6 points, too, for that matter, and absolutely made fools of them, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. Jordan Love, again, elevating himself very similarly to how CJ Stroud is doing. Dude is a baller, and good for Matt LaFleur. This was a masterclass of play calling by Matt LaFleur. That was some of the most fun I've had in terms of X's and O's by watching the play calling by Matt LaFleur that I've had in a while. And I will say, these Packers receivers are cooking.
They're good. Cooking. They're very
good.
They have a really good situation, because they're all like rookies. Like, all
my
rookies.
gosh, yeah. Even Romeo Dobbs, dude, he had one play where he shook Gilmore, and Gilmore was lost. Like, he wasn't even remotely near the play after that. It was bad. But getting off track here, let's go back to the game breakdown. 49ers, they had the first round bye. They're getting ready to host the Packers at home. We just talked about the Packers and the success that they had against the Cowboys. One of the more polarizing finishes of the playoffs. That was a game that everybody walked away just absolutely dumbfounded by both sides of the ball, because, I mean, the Cowboys, they were built properly. They were, truthfully, they had the better roster at the time. So everybody thought that the Cowboys would win easily, but no. The Packers play calling, the Packers coaching, and the Packers rookies, or young talent, just outdid everybody against the Cowboys. So the 49ers might have a little bit more to handle than what they had expected, but we kind of look at the Vegas splits, and again, similar to the Texans and the Ravens, Vegas has this price pretty high in favor of the 49ers. Before I get into any of the numbers and what the model says, what's your reaction to Packers plus 10, man? And do you think they have a chance to win? Or you think the 49ers are going to kind of handle business at home? Let me know.
I mean, I think it's high. I think that it's a really high spread, especially in the playoffs. But first of all, I want to say Jordan Love went into Jerry World and ate their food and kissed their girlfriend and kicked their dog. And it was just awesome. And that was sick. And the Stephen A. Take on the Cowboys after they lost was great, and I'm happy. I'm happy for Stephen A. But
yeah,
God, like if the Packers do that again, I mean, they can beat anybody. But I have to remember 2 years ago or 3 years ago when the Packers and the 49ers played in the playoffs, and Mostert had like 300 rushing yards. And I remember I had taken the Packers in that. I remember I took the Packers in that to cover, and the Shanahan just obliterated Packers. I think they still had Mike McCarthy. Maybe not. I don't remember what year it was exactly.
Yeah.
But I think Green Bay can.
Dude.
I don't know.
It's here. Let me take over really quick. The model projection has 26-20 in favor of the 49ers, obviously, but a little less than what Vegas thinks. Actually, a lot less, 4 points less. So again, mentioning kind of what I said for the Bucs, the model takes into in favor momentum, and what team has more momentum right now than the Packers? They're just looking at what they've done. This is crazy. So with that being said, of course we think the 49ers are going to win this game, but it would be unfair to talk about the ways in which the Packers win this game. It's a hard route. I'm not going to lie. Looking at some of the advanced match, look, Green Bay 7th in EPA per play on the offensive side of the ball, but their defense is still lacking for a team that needs to make a Super Bowl push. 24th overall in EPA per play allowed on the defensive side of the ball. Flip it over, San Francisco is 1st overall in EPA and then 7th overall in EPA per play allowed. Same exact rankings for DVOA. Green Bay 6th overall on offense, 27th on defense. San Francisco 1st overall on offense, 4th overall on defense. It's going to be tough. I think what kind of is the obstacle for me is not only is Green Bay, the 49ers will have more success in, forcing 3 and outs and some stops for Jordan Love and company, but asking the Green Bay Packers to stop this 49ers offense when they're fully healthy and Kyle Shanahan's calling the plays, it's like, so when we broke down the Cowboys and Packers game, what did we say? We said that the way that the Packers win this game, and the reason that I would feel good about the Packers, is that their coaching is significantly better than the Packers. Everybody that watches this show knows that we are really down on Mike McCarthy. You can go watch all of our preseason stuff. We shot on him. We actually had to redact some of what we said because of the success in the regular season that they had.
Oh, but it proved right in the end.
It did, baby. It did.
It proved right in the
end. I will victory lap that. We were down on Mike McCarthy, and at first we were both like, shit, man. He might have He might have had a little bit of a revival in his brief retirement. But no, that game was perfect. I can feel good about my offseason takes about how hiring Mike McCarthy was one of the dumbest choices that Jerry Jones has made because of his game management, play calling, and all of that. And I was like, Packers fans, you can rest easy knowing that your coaching is at least better. Maybe not your talent or your roster yet, but your coaching certainly is. I can't say that for this team as they go into San Francisco and play the 49ers. Because not only is their defense one of the best coached defenses in the league, Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive masterminds in the league. I would put him up there top 3.
Was LaFleur under Shanahan? I think he was. Right?
They all work together.
I know they all work together, but I think Shanahan was the OC and LaFleur was they were on the Texans together, I believe. Not Texans, the Redskins.
Redskins. Yeah, that was when McVay, him, and
Frank Wright or Mike McCarthy. Not Mike McCarthy. Mike McDaniel.
Maybe, yeah, but Mike McDaniel was like an intern at that point.
Yeah,
before he went over to the Falcons. But yeah, that's one thing I cannot say with confidence. Where last game and look, I'll be honest, I picked the Cowboys to win. That was I thought it was the right thing to do. The Cowboys should have won. If they had a good coach, I think they, would have at least had a fighting chance better than. But where I said that for that game, I cannot say that for this game. The 49ers are one of the best coach teams in the league. Their talent on both sides of the ball is unmatched. You look on the defense side of the ball, you got Fred Warner, you got one of the best linebackers in football. You got 2 of the best defensive ends opposite of each other in Chase Young and Nick Bosa. And then you go to the offensive side of the ball, you have Debo, Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle. And then you have one of the best run blocking receivers and our boy, Juwan Jennings, out there, who's an absolute dog. How do you stop this? The offensive line led by Trent Williams, one of the best graded units in the league.
You can't stop it. And I see more scenarios. I see more scenarios where the 49ers are scoring 40 points. So I'm going to go with the 49ers to cover -10.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think,
there's more routes for them to blow them out.
I think the Packers will find success, of course. But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to let recency bias or any sort of overreaction take away from what I see via the eye test. And I think the Packers will have some plays where everybody's like, "Holy shit, this is awesome!" They'll have Jordan Love is one of the most explosive quarterbacks in the league in terms of EPA per play. Now his success rate is a little meh, but it doesn't have to be super high because we know explosive plays can flip a game on its head better than anybody. But this 49ers team will have more answers than what the Cowboys had. I think this game is a 34-21 ending in favor of the 49ers, just because I think the 49ers are going to have their way at home on the offensive side of the ball. I think this is going to be, now I will say this will be a really fun game to watch, as it's going to be a battle of the wits between 2 of the better offensive minds in football right now. So really looking forward to that. But again, I'm not going to let recency bias and I'm not going to let overreaction guide my pick here. I'm taking the 49ers and I'm taking them to cover. I think this is one of my more confident picks. However, the public is not on the 49ers. 34% of the bets are on the 49ers. 32% of the handle is on the 49ers. So public is heavy into the Packers, which I'm not surprised.
Stop. The script has been written. Okay. The beach parlay for the week are Ravens -9.5, 49ers -10, Lions -6.5, Chiefs +2.5.
Wow. Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, this is gonna be hard. Like it's gonna be tough. So, BJ, as we wrap this show up, so I know your AFC and NFC championship games. For your AFC championship, you have
The Ravens and the Chiefs.
And your NFC championship?
The Lions and the 49ers.
Crazy, man. Oh,
I like it.
Crazy. All right.
I like it.
For my AFC matchup, I'm the same. Chiefs and the Ravens. And on the NFC side, I got the 49ers and the Lions. But
okay, cool.
I still like some of those underdogs.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah, no. I have the Bucs covering. I took them at +7, but I still think that the Lions cover or win outright. So, hey, we got a lot to be excited about. Got a lot to be excited about. I cannot wait. Guys, we appreciate you watching. We will be back here next week to talk championship weekend. Don't miss out. Talk to you guys next week.